Hello, I'm Darrell Evans and I work at the University of Newcastle as a professor and I'm a biologist, but I also help run the learning and teaching at the university. So thinking about the favourite lessons at school, I think for me anything that was experiential, in other words doing something, so any practically based subject, that's why science I think has always appealed to me. So at school I was probably one of those students that was not really a bookworm. A lot into the study. I just liked to do anything that there was a project going on or working with other students, again being very practical. In terms of the subject areas therefore, it was all around the sciences and particularly biology but also geography excited me, and I really enjoyed doing music. So as a biologist I'm interested in living organisms. And in particular I like to think about the human body and the way that we move, and so I'm interested in the muscles and the bones and the cartilages of the body, where they actually came from during development and how they enable us to move around, play sports and do all the activities that we do on a day-to-day basis. So as a biologist it's all about the body for me. So what do I enjoy about music? Music to me is very creative. And I love listening to music and lots of different types of music, but it was also then taking up an instrument and thinking about how I can create some music myself, and so I took up the saxophone when I was about 11 years of age and played that for many years in lots of different bands and really enjoyed that element of creativity. In terms of why I've become a biologist, I think that stemmed from living bordering on a wood or a small forest when I was growing up and exploring that forest, seeing animals and seeing plants and just being really interested in those. And then I watched a couple of programs on the television which inspired me to think differently about biology, and then reading a number of books. And there was one particular novelist that I really enjoyed, and he was called Darrell, and he wrote a book called My Family and Other Animals, and it was very much about his life growing up as a very young biologist, and that really intrigued me and I think inspired me to want to pursue biology myself. So who else has inspired me to become a biologist? I think many of you will be aware of the name David Attenborough. And obviously he's still living and creating some wonderful biology documentaries on the television. I was very lucky to meet him once and discuss biology with him, and he's truly inspiring. But while I was in America, I did some study in America, I met somebody called Howard Evans. And Howard Evans now must be about 95 years of age, but he was the most intriguing, exciting and inspiring person that I've ever met. He really got me to think differently about biology, got me to think differently about plants and animals and where they've come from, how they've evolved. And he still, at the age of in his 90s, goes into schools with a basket of tricks, of shells and bones and plants, and discusses with kids what they think about those, and they all learn a little bit more. And so, a truly inspiring person. But if I go back further in history, it's just learning about the discoveries others have made from DNA through to what makes our bodies move, what makes us think and tick differently. So I think one of the important things about any field that you're interested in is about curiosity. It's about learning more about a particular subject area. What intrigues you? Do you look at something and go, oh, I want to know how that works? Or where did that come from? And so curiosity to me makes you want to think even more, research a little bit more, find out new things. So I think it's very exciting that you're filling up passports with where you gain your learning from. And when I was at primary school, we had a little library at the end of my road, and that certainly was an area that I frequented often to learn new things. Yes, to read stories and to be with others, but also to find out things differently. We didn't have the internet in those days, so it was looking up in books and getting excited by books. But I also, as I say, lived near a wood and a forest, and that to me was a big learning environment. I used to go out there and explore very, very differently. And then living very near to London, I grew up in England. It gave me a chance to visit lots of museums in London, again, be able to explore lots of different things. So it's fantastic to hear that you're creating your passports of learning, and access to education is really important. We're all global citizens, so how can we learn a lot more to be actually able to invest in our community, our local community first, and then widen that out to a much more global context. So every opportunity you get to learn, all the environments that you're within, that doesn't just mean school, it means being with your friends and discussing things, visiting places, being just in the environment outside. Gain from every experience that you have, because that can really help you think about how you can work towards being a global citizen.